All right, FFA, what's up, everybody? Hey, do me a favor. If you can hear me okay, let me know in the WhatsApp chat. Doing this off of my phone this morning, but we've got an exciting call planned for you guys as we jumpstart this week with an agent who went over $13,000 just last week. All right. And if he can do it, you guys can do it. So I'm excited for you to hear some tips from him. But as we jump into this week, guys, it's December 15th. We've got exactly 2 weeks left for you to finish your year where you want to be. So don't let up the gas. I know we're going into the holiday season, but so many of you guys are a week or two away from qualifying for the Scotland trip. So I would look at your numbers. We're going to be sending you guys out those net numbers here this afternoon. So make sure that you're on the lookout for those. But you're going to get the numbers from last month and you will see where you are year to date in terms of qualifying for that trip and in terms of the leaderboard. So, guys, this year flew by. It's been such a phenomenal year for us as a company. Could not be more proud of each and every one of you who make up FFA and make this company what it is. It's been by far a year for the record books, and we are super proud of you guys and just grateful for all of the hard work that everybody's put in so far this year. But without further ado, guys, let's jumpstart this training call and go get after it this week. So I'm going to bring on Wes. Want to give Wes a huge shout out. He just came in to this career just on fire, and I know he had a lot of goals set for himself from personal production and now team building, and he's just been tearing it up lately. And he didn't let up last week as he went over 13K. So Wes, I'm going to add you in here to the main feed. All right, Wes,
What's up?
you
Hear
are
me?
live with us. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. So, where are you joining us from today? I heard you're in Destin, Florida. Is that right?
Yeah, just outside of Destin. I'm if anybody's familiar with the 30A area, it's like 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes east of Destin, right in between
Nice.
Panama City Beach.
That's awesome. You know, me and Alicia, we did a vacation to Destin one year, and we were so excited thinking it was going to be warm there, but we went there in the winter and it was freezing cold, and it was not what we were expecting. But so
Yeah.
it's not like Southern Florida. Are you cold up that way too?
Yeah, there's a freeze warning tonight, so I got below 32 last night, so not what I signed up for.
No, no. It surprised us too, man. We were so excited. We got the kids all loaded up. This was when Landon and Tanner were little. Drove all the way down there and it was like 40 degrees out. But it's still beautiful place there, man. So Wes, let's dive into this week, man. 13K. What do you think attributed to you having such a solid week?
I think it's a combination of luck and persistency. Um, so if it wouldn't have been for one of my sales this week, I definitely wouldn't have had 13K this week. That's for sure. Over 800 monthly in premium is quite a bit. But with that guy, I say persistency because I've had his lead since October. I kept calling him, but turns out he's a commercial pilot. So every time that I called him, he was out of town, in the air, something like that. Just didn't line up. But after a while, finally got a hold of him last week and then set an appointment for the next day. And then ended up, yeah, he wanted some coverage because he's a retired military, Air Force. He had survivor benefits plan for his wife, and it had just renewed, went from like $400 or $500 a month to 800 and something dollars a month. So he said that he was already spending the $800 a month. So with having something that provides a lot more value, it was easy kind of to replace it in there. There was really no hesitation on his end, so made it nice.
That's awesome, dude. So let's talk about that, man, because 800 bucks on one client, right? Selling that thing over the phone where you got to build the trust, the rapport. Like you said, you kept following up with them. What was like the initial conversation like? Was he like taken back, like, hey, how'd you get my information? Or did he remember the lead that he filled out? Walk us through that.
So he actually called me back. I had left him probably 5 or 6 voicemails at this point. He had left me a voicemail because I was on the phone with another client, and I called him and booked the meeting for the next day. But you said rapport building, like that was very big with it, especially virtual on the phone. They can't see what you're typing in necessarily. So like filling in the gaps with connecting with him was huge on that scenario because he's a pilot. My dad is a retired military pilot. Used to work for United. He's commercial with Delta. So like there's a lot of connections that were made, and he turned out to be from like 45 minutes away from where I'm from in Missouri originally. So it was just weird coincidences that led to a good connection with the client for sure.
That's awesome, dude. 5 to 6 voicemails. Most agents don't do that, right? Most agents will call. If they don't answer, they don't even leave them a voicemail, nothing, man. So what has that been your experience doing telesales where you have to leave people multiple messages and keep calling, keep calling?
I know personally for me, I'm not going to call somebody back unless they leave a voicemail.
Yeah.
And like I mean, it shows persistency. And if you change your tone of voice, if it's not the same voicemail each time, it could get repetitive. But what,
Yep.
like, first one, I will be like, hey, you filled out this information requesting some coverage, or it looks like you didn't complete your application on Ethos or whatever. Um, it's my job to close your file. Give me a call back as soon as you can so we can stop giving you a call, essentially. And then
Yeah.
the next one, I'll be like, hey, I didn't hear back from you. I hope everything's okay, but please give me a call back. I'm still trying to close your file here on the coverage that you're looking for. I'm sure this is probably a priority for you still. So give me a call back at this number here. And
Mhm.
then keep it on with that. And also too, I like sending voice texts because if you send a voice text, especially with iPhone, I don't know how it works with Android, but you can see when they open it. So if they open it,
Yeah.
it typically goes away. So you can call them right then and there. You know they're at least at the phone, and so they may just be ignoring you, or it's just
Mhm.
maybe timing. So
Hey, that's a good tip, man, especially like in today's society. I get phone calls all the time, and if I don't have the number saved, I very rarely will answer it. But if they send me a text message, like I had a house appraiser call me last week, but it was from a not North Carolina area code. So I just let it go to voicemail. But he was trying to get into a lockbox to a house, and he was like, "Hey, I'm here to, appraise this property." And he didn't voice text, but he texted it to me. And I'm like, oh crap, I had to call that guy back. So it's the same concept, guys. If you're doing telesales or even if you're in the field and you're not following that up with a text message or a voice text like Wes is talking about, I think you're losing a lot of opportunity. I love that you in your voicemail say, hey, I'm just trying to do this so I can stop calling you. Cause like that, I mean, that works. People are probably like, perfect. I'm going to call this guy back so he stops calling me.
well, it's a pattern switch. Like most salesmen are gonna, hey, just following up. Just wanted to call you again about this. But like, hey, I know you want to stop the phone calls. You want to get this. If you want to get this taken care of, we'll get it taken care of. Essentially. So you're muted, Ryan. Ryan, you're muted.
For benefits. Was it hard flipping that because he had it for so long?
I didn't hear half of what you said there. I'll be honest. You're muted for most
Oh
of
no, man. Can
that.
you hear me now?
I can, yeah.
You got me back? Okay. Was it hard flipping that VA survivorship plan? Because some veterans they've had it for so long that they're just like stuck. They're glued to it. They're not switching it. Did you have to kind of dive into how that thing works in order to convince them to switch it?
A little bit. I wouldn't say too much though. Already like he was already seeking out something else to replace it to begin with, so it made it easy. But like I like just reiterated, oh yeah, I'm sure that probably just renewed. Gets extremely more expensive. Then I asked him if it was the VGLI to kind of clarify things and see if he had that too as well. Um, but he's like, "Oh, no, 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 I don't have that." Like, he at least knew that was extremely expensive later on in years, so, he just wanted something that was gonna be more consistent, longer term, that he's not necessarily gonna throw nearly as much money at and get actually twice as much, insurance in return, so
That's awesome, man. Well, big shout out to you. Shout out to you for that one. But what about the other one? So you closed a few more deals last week. Let's walk through those ones, man. Were those people you had to follow up with a lot? Were they people you just called and got lucky with them, or?
So, one of them was I just called, and then got lucky, booked it for the next day. That was a new set of leads. But the other one, was one that I had to keep following up with. It was part of the same batch that I had got the other guy with from back in October. Multiple times that I had appointments scheduled with the husband, and he just kept rescheduling, kept rescheduling. Something came up to where that's the bad thing about telesales is they're just a phone call away or a text away from rescheduling or just not showing up. But thankfully, he kept like each time I'd call him, he kept rescheduling, and so I knew that there at least was some importance to them. I sold the husband the week prior, and then she had to feed the baby, so I had to reschedule for. Otherwise, I'd have sold both of them in the same phone call. But then booked her for the weekend, and then she ended up having a ton of issues with the DocuSign. So even after I sold it, it was still following up multiple, like for 4 days in advance or after, I should say, just to get the DocuSign finished because she kept clicking to review, thinking that she was signing, and then not going, hitting accept, and then going to the actual sign part. So
Man, some of those are so hard. I know we were talking about this on Wednesday's call last week, but getting them through that signature process with some of these carriers is really difficult. And it's not even just for older people. Sometimes younger people have trouble with it, on their emails and their phones too. So have you found, Wes, when you're doing telesales and you make that first contact, they pick up the phone for the first time, are you closing them right then and there? Or do you try to book an appointment, for the next day to close them?
I'll try to do it right then and there if I can. But more times than not, I end up catching people like either driving or like in
Mm-hmm.
between like on a lunch break or something like that. Um, and so they will book out like maybe later that day. I
Yeah.
typically try not to do like more than a couple days out in advance, because they have a tendency to no show pretty easily. So
Yeah.
um, if I can, I'm going to do it right then and there. But if they show like any pushback, like other than like after like trying to push like once or twice to go through it, then I typically try to book it for later on. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they have feel like they have the opportunity to um, like not buy, essentially not to be forced into it, there's a lot more comfort on their end too as well. So they're not like bombarded by trying to fill out an application on the phone immediately by somebody that they
Mm-hmm.
just met over the phone. So it helps to build that little bit of rapport too over time.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's key. I've noticed a few of the biggest sales so far this year from agents doing telesales have came from the second or third appointment or conversation. It's sometimes the one-time call closes, they work, but if you see like these $800 a month sales like you made or some bigger ones, seems to be like a lot of people are just busy and you got to follow up with them. So when you're running your leads, Wes, if an agent wants to, kind of mimic what you're doing, how much should they be spending in leads? How many should they have each week? Walk us through like your systems behind doing telesales. Do you have a dialer you like to use? Just give us kind of just a brief like what your setup is.
So I personally, I've used dialers in the past. I've used like auto text software, stuff like that too. But it's been a couple months now, but I watched a video that showed if you dial a certain amount of times from a certain amount of phone numbers or from the single phone number, it'll automatically get flagged as spam, no matter like what software that you're using. So that's why I personally like to do it all through my personal phone number, do it all by hand. Because then also too, especially with iPhones, whenever you call, you can submit your like contact information like when you're leaving a voicemail. So it's another layer of credibility too. Because like most of the time you get spam phone calls from like Android numbers or something, to where there's no second layer of credibility. So I personally like just using my own phone and calling that way. And then like because technology is great, but there's times that it could not work well, and like a voicemail drop if you're calling a bunch of people at a time. I've had instances where the voicemail doesn't pick up correctly, and it'll leave like half of the voicemail. It just doesn't make any sense, and then they automatically think that you're scam. So I'd rather have especially that first contact, all made by hand, so that there's that level of credibility.
Yeah, that's key, man. I think sometimes agents just overcomplicate things a little bit too much. It's really just comes down to the simple get your leads, contact them as much as possible, and just put the work in. How many hours would you say you're on the phone dialing numbers a day to have that kind of a week?
Um, I'd say at least like 6 to 8 hours a day, because
Hmm.
like I'm a single dad, so like whenever my son's in town, like I'll be taking care of him in those
Yeah.
times, and then I have to take my dog out, eat, of course, and so there's times that I'm not necessarily sitting down there dialing 100% of the time, but I mean, especially with what we do, it's a commission-based industry. Your work like reflects in your effort, and like it reflects on the paycheck too. So,
Hmm.
um, like as much as I can is as much as I'll be dialing,
Yeah.
honestly. So,
Dude, how do you hold yourself to be disciplined to do that? To sit down, right? 6 to 8 hours just dialing leads. I mean, I don't think so. Some, especially field agents, they don't understand the amount of rejection a telesales agent gets, right? It's probably 20 times the amount of no's that you get compared to, an agent going door to door. So, like, how do you hold yourself to that?
honestly, it's like I try to set big goals. Like
Hmm.
whenever minimums are set, I try to double minimums as far as like annual premium goals, and
Yeah.
especially I used to be a part of captive agency, and I've
Hmm.
seen agents do 20, 30, 40 grand a week in premium in that sort of
Yeah.
scenario. So I know that it's like 10 times as possible with being a broker and have the ability to
Hmm.
run our own leads and have people that are actually looking to buy said
Yeah.
insurance. And it just makes it, especially with what we do, there's much more level of credibility, because you're shopping around for the client, you're working for them rather
Hmm.
than working for the company. So I just know that
Yep.
there's big possibilities, big numbers that could be made, and I just think I'm thinking small to begin with. So
Yep. Heck yeah, man. Hey, you proved it last week, right? 13K, right up there to those 20K weeks, man. So doing the telesales, Wes, have you found that a lot of what you sell is final expense insurance, term insurance, or just pretty much a big mixture of everything?
I'd say it's a mixture of everything. It kind of depends on the client. Like if they're going to be like 65 plus, there's a good chance where we're looking at whole life. If they're under 65 and they want some sort of permanent coverage or hint at any sort of cash value, anything like that, I'm going to try to put them on an IUL, just because
Mhm.
there's more of a benefit long term with something like that. And it still has the permanence of a life insurance policy. And
Yeah.
then, like, if somebody wants a big number, like, say, $1 million worth of coverage, which, like, the last guy, the 800 ALP annual premium, he was $2 million worth of coverage.
Mhm.
That I'm gonna look at term, because two
Yeah.
million for a guy, I think he was like 63, something like that.
Oh yeah, that'd be
For
a lot.
that would be a lot. Granted, I would be
Mhm.
happy with that paycheck, but that's something that he only said he was comfortable with around $800. That would be like thousands. So
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I remember one time, Wes, I had a guy. He was 83 years old, and he was dead set on having 5 million of whole life insurance. And like, I had to actually call every company around with him just so he could hear them say what the price was, because he didn't believe me. He thought it should be $100 a month. At 83, I think we found one company that would even do that, and the payment was like it was over 100 grand a month. It just didn't make sense. So
yeah.
that's key, man. And a lot of these term plans, I think a lot of agents shy away from term, but guys, what you got to realize, even for people in their 60s, most of the term products, they can convert those to a permanent plan by a certain age or at the end of their term without having to requalify medically. So why not get a good few years at a higher death benefit and then, bump it down when that term's getting ready to end? I think a lot of agents forget that. But Wes, what's a closing tip that you have, man, for an agent? You know, you were a captive agent, like you said before, right? So you've been in this industry for a while. You've had success. What's a tip you'd have for an agent who's maybe just getting started, man? They're in their first like 3 months. What's a tip you'd have for them to just see success?
I would record your presentation, your phone calls, or whatever it is that you're doing, and study that like it's the back of your hand. Whenever I started, I made voice memos of the entire presentation and played it instead of playing the radio in my car, at the gym, stuff like that. I think that helped out tremendously starting out. And knowing the rebuttals like the back of your hand. Like I am confident to this point to where whenever they say no, I know exactly what to say. And that takes practice and time. But that's helped me out tremendously as far as confidence with every presentation. So,
Love that, dude. That's a great tip, man. What you put into your brain, right, ultimately pays off. I used to do the same thing. I started off a little bit different, right? I didn't start in telesales, I did door to door. But in between every house, I was always trying to recap what I said, or like on my iPad, I'd record my door approach or my presentation and try to figure out like why did I close them? Why did I not close them? And then listen to other people how they say things, right? Because, like you said, man, once you get to the point where you know what to say when they tell you no, the job gets so much easier and less stressful because it's the same objections over and over and over again, you know? So, but big shout out to you, Wes, man. Solid week. What's a tip you have, man? So I know you have a goal to hit 100 agents on your team here coming up, right? Over the next, what do you say, the next 12 months.
yeah.
So, why build? Like, I think a lot of agents, they're trying to figure out the individual sales, but I love that you have the mentality of building a business and recruiting and growing that way too. So, what made you decide to set that goal for yourself?
It's honestly two things. I know what this opportunity has done for me personally, as far as change my life financially, and just with the freedom, especially being a single dad, being able to be home for my child. Like I used to be in the car business back in the day, like working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Not getting to be able to see family was huge, and that drained everything out of me. So I know exactly what this is doing for me, and so I want to spread that to as many people I know that I feel like they could do well enough in this industry, because it's not easy. You like it, yeah. Personally for me, like if I talk to somebody and if they can hold a conversation, I
Mhm.
know that there's a good chance they could probably do well at this job here, because it's all just talking to
Yep.
people, you know? Especially on the telesales side. Like it's all tonality over the phone and holding a conversation that could ultimately lead to success in this industry. So
That's awesome, dude. I love that goal that you set for yourself, man, and for you being a single dad. How old's your boy?
8.
8. Yep. So you know what it's like, man, when they start getting 8. Like when they're little, they don't really know how much time you're with them or whatnot, you know, because they're just so little. But when they start getting at 8, 9, like I think of our boys, my two older boys are 11 and 9, and every day they're like, "Hey, can we go do this? Can we go play basketball? Can we go hunting? Can we go whatever?" And you know, when you're so tied up with everything, like you said, at your past job in the car industry, working 70 hours a week, you just always have to say no, you know? So it's just a blessing to be able to actually stop for a minute and be like, yeah, hey, we can go do that. And then I can get back to work, you know? So love your mission, man, for being able to help people out. What's the closing tip you have? Somebody wants to have a big week. What's your closing tip on today's call to tell them to go do?
just think bigger, set a huge goal. And if you miss that goal, you'll fall short of huge goal. It'll still probably be a record week for you.
Heck yeah, man. Love it, Wes. Well, hey, I appreciate you, buddy, for jumping on here, sharing some tips. Excited to see what the future holds for you, bud. And awesome job last week.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Hey, that's all we got for you guys. Let's go have a big week out there. We got 2 weeks left of 2025. So let's see who's going to take home Agent of the Week. I don't know if anyone's going to beat Wes this week. Nobody beat him last week. So we'll see. Wes, you got to hold your title up, man.
I'll do my best.
There we go. All right, guys. Appreciate you.